and welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average Fangirl. I'm your host, Addi, and today I'm joined by a very special guest.
Hi guys, I'm Charlie, Charlie Castle. You may or may not know who I am, but I make a lot of supernatural content, some content with my cute puppy Simba, and in general, just kind of relatable, funny. I hope content is what I do.
So, if someone wanted to go check out your TikTok or your Instagram, what are your usernames so they can find you?
So on TikTok, it's Charlie Castles, and then on Instagram, it's Charlie's.castle because I couldn't get the username. Someone beat me to it.
All
But
right, so most people know you for like your supernatural content. So, today, guys, we're talking all about supernatural. I kind of just picked out some like main points that you guys might want to know of like our opinions on the show. And then on Instagram, asked you guys for some questions. So, then at the end of the episode, we're just going to be answering some of your guys' questions that you asked. Previously on Not Your Average Fangirl. All right. So for shows, I'm watching the same shows that I tell you guys every single week. I'm still watching Pretty Little Liars and I'm still watching Young Sheldon. I don't know what my obsession with Young Sheldon is, but it's so good and I'm addicted to it. What shows are you watching right now?
yeah, so funny on Young Sheldon. Like I haven't actually watched it, like went out of my way to watch it, but I feel
Mhm.
like I've watched the whole show on TikTok because it's
Yeah, it's
always
always on
and
TikTok.
I feel like I know exactly everything that happens just from from clips on TikTok. So I
Yeah.
just well, I'm not gonna watch it now because I know everything that happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm always like same thing. I'm always rewatching Supernatural like every other couple months
Yeah.
because I love
Me
having it in
too.
the background. It's like I like when I'm doing work and I just have it in the background and I'm like, okay, I know that episode, I know it. And then if one of my favorite episodes comes on, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop what I'm doing and I'm gonna re-enjoy this episode every single
Yes.
time. I rewatch The Boys often, and I'm watching the new Percy Jackson series. I've been watching that. I watched What If and Brother's Son on Netflix. Those are the ones I'm watching right now.
I really want to watch Percy Jackson, but I know it's a book series and I always feel like I have to read the books first. So now I'm not going to be able to let myself watch it until I read the books.
No, I agree, but that's one of the first series that I haven't read the book first.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to read the Percy Jackson, but it's hard to find time now. But I'm like I've watched the movies. I watched the movies right before the new series, and I'm really liking the new series. So next, I'm gonna read the books like when I
Yeah.
find some time.
I've heard that the books and the series already is really good, so I'm
Yeah.
excited about that. Next up we have movies. So I actually just went and saw the new Mean Girls like musical in theaters and I know a lot of people are saying like bad things about it, but I thought it was so good. I enjoyed every second of it. So, and then I actually also just rewatched the Maze Runner trilogy the other day and it's a classic. So good. What
Yeah.
movies have you been watching recently?
I want to see Mean Girls. I do really want to see Mean Girls because I grew up with the original
Yeah.
Lindsay Lohan, and I like you said, I've heard mixed things, but I really want to watch it for myself. I've also watched the Wonka movie. Was probably the last movie I watched in theaters, and it was really cool because Timothy Chalamet was at the theater with us, and it was this whole thing. It was really
That's
cool.
crazy.
Yep, and
I haven't
then
seen that yet. It's on my
it's really
list.
good. It's really good. Honestly, I was not. I was just very whatever. I'll go see it. I'm not expecting like huge things,
Yeah.
but it was really. I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I have the music on my Spotify playlist. I recommend it, and I think that's the last thing I watched was just the Wonka movie. I haven't been to a theater since.
So I was gonna go see Wonka like 2 nights ago, but then I had just seen Mean Girls the day before, and I was like, I don't know if I can handle two musicals in a row, and
Yeah,
so I pushed it back. But I want to go see it like this week, hopefully.
yeah. No, I definitely recommend it. It's very cute. It's very like beautifully like made, and like I said, the songs are just very good.
Well, I'm excited. And moving on to music. So I kind of mentioned this in last week's episode, actually, but I've been like listening to all of Tate McRae's music because for some reason I always hear like clips of her songs on TikTok, and I like them. I just never like actually add them to my playlist. So I've been listening to her music. And then because I watched Mean Girls and I'd never listened to any of Renee Rapp's music, but in Mean Girls, like her voice is just so good. So I started listening to some of her album the other day, and I really liked it so far. So those are my thoughts. But what is the music you are currently listening to, or is on
Like
your
I said, the Wonka
playlist?
soundtrack. I've definitely been playing that a lot. Obviously, Supernatural playlist. I also have it on like every like every time. Around it. Like I'm Just Ken is probably my most played
Oh my
song.
gosh,
It's
yes.
so funny because it was as of June when the movie came out, I think. And
Yeah.
since then, on my Spotify Wrapped listing, my top was I'm Just Ken. So in like 5 months, it became my most played song of the whole year. And I definitely overdid it with that song for sure.
Feel like it would have been on, like, my top 5, but rather than, like, actually listening to the song, I just, like, would walk around my house singing it, like, with
Yeah,
no context, just
I see.
I'd be singing it. If I had it on every single time I did that, it probably would have been in my top 5 too.
Oh my god, yeah. My both my roommate and my Alexa were probably just frustrated because every other like every time like it would come into my head, I'm like, Alexa, play I'm Just Ken. Just like every like,
Yeah.
3 4 times a day.
Such a good song, it's addicting.
It's very good. It's very good. I made a lot of videos with it. Like way too many videos.
Okay, guys, so that is everything for our previously on. So we're gonna move into the main portion of this episode and get talking about what you guys are really here for, which is Supernatural. All right, so first things first, I feel like we have to start of like the beginning of each of our journeys with watching Supernatural. Like, how did you get into it or find the show?
So that's a really funny story actually, like because I was a kid, but I was around when the show started.
Hmm.
And I remember I would watch Smallville every week, and it came on right after Smallville, and I gave it a shot because Jensen, who was on Smallville, like I love the
Yeah.
character, and they killed him off because he was going to Supernatural, and I remember I gave it a shot, and I watched 2 episodes from the first season, and I was like, it's not for me. I don't know, it's just not for me. And then that was 2005, and then fast forward to 2013, I was dating somebody. I think I don't even remember much, but I was dating somebody, and they were binging it on Netflix, and they like, no, you have to watch it. It's really good. And I think they were on season 6. Like they were, I think the show was season 8, but she was on season 6. Yeah, and I started binging with her, and I'm like, wait, I need to watch from the beginning. This is like, I don't know what's going on. I'm getting spoilers all over. I moved back to Netflix when it was still on it in Canada, because in Canada we don't have it on Netflix anymore. So I binged it on Netflix, and that was just changed my. And this girl, I never saw her again, obviously, and she probably changed my whole life. She has no idea.
Has no idea. My story is not that interesting. I just one night, me and my dad were like sitting on the couch eating our dinner, and me and my dad, when we're like sitting on the couch, we can never agree on a show to watch. Like if it's me and my mom, we always are like, oh, like we'll watch this. We're always watching the same thing. With my dad, like we always fight. We're like, well, I want to watch this or I want to watch this, and he was like, okay, well, we're just gonna watch something new that neither of us have seen then. And I was like, okay. And the first thing that came up was Supernatural, and I was like, I've heard about that.
Yeah,
And my dad was like, okay, we're watching it. And he clicked play. I watched like the first 2 episodes that night, like you did, and I was like, this is pretty good.
yeah,
And it was okay. I was like, I'll just make it like my new background show. Like I always have something that's like when I'm doing other things, I can leave it on my TV in the background. And I wasn't interested enough to like fully commit to it. So I was like, okay, I'll just leave it on in the background. And the next day I was watching it, and just like all of a sudden I stopped what I was doing and got totally distracted and just sat on my bed and like watched the TV for like 4 hours binging it. Yeah, I mean that's how I got into it, and from there it just kind of escalated. And my dad, I don't think he ever kept watching it until like a few months ago, and I was like, "Dude, I'm obsessed with this show now." And he's like, "What?" And I
yeah.
was like, "It's so good." And then I forced my mom to watch it, and my dad is continuing it now finally. So,
Is there like a moment where you're like, okay, I like it, like I'm hooked, kind of thing?
I don't know, I think like, for example, if I was doing, like, laundry or something, like, I was just, like, folding my laundry, and then, like, slowly, I was just doing it slower and slower, and then all of a sudden, I was just sitting there doing absolutely nothing, watching the TV.
Yeah,
So,
I
I
don't know
don't
for me. I don't know when, like in what
yeah, it
moment.
wasn't, like, a specific moment, yeah.
Yeah, I kept binging, and then I'm just like, I need to watch from the beginning because there's they have the flashbacks. I'm like, what? No way. I'm like I already knew how season 5 ended because they kept
Yeah.
showing it in the flashback, and I'm like, damn it. I just like so much spoiled for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, I'm sure you've watched a lot of other shows besides Supernatural, and so have I. Like, what specifically made you just, like, obsessed with Supernatural specifically? Like, what made it stand out between all of the other shows that you've watched?
It's like it's something I question myself. I'm like, well, for one, I love this. I love sci-fi, fantasy. Like that's just my genre that I love, in movies and shows. And I think a big chunk of it was just Dean, like just his humor, like his his like I don't know, everything he does is just like, for one, I kind of relate to a lot of it, like family and like avoiding feelings, and being all like
Yeah.
trying to be like Mr. Tough Guy with some things when I'm like crying inside kind of thing. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, so it's kind of like just Dean definitely drew me in. Was a lot of it was Dean, Bobby as well. Bobby drew me in a lot. Like I really liked him as a father figure. I really love the character. And just monsters. I love I love everything to do with monsters, like vampires and werewolves and Wendigos, and just like I don't know, I like all of it. But I really enjoyed that there was a plot the entire time. You know, it's not just monster of the week.
Yeah.
I really enjoy the bigger picture.
I feel like when Cass shows up is when it really like picks up and they start adding in like a real bigger storyline that's going on in the background is like when it really like pulled me in. Like I was obsessed before then, but then that's when I was like hooked on it. But I agree. Like I love like monsters. One of my other favorite shows is Vampire Diaries, and I also love Criminal Minds. So I feel like Supernatural is kind of like it mixed Criminal Minds and Vampire Diaries with like the way the episodes were set up, and then with the monsters and the supernatural creatures, and then also for me it was Dean too. Yeah,
Yeah,
his personality, his character, his humor, and I think a lot of the credit goes to Dean for sure.
yeah,
But the
absolutely.
show as a whole, and I feel like all of the characters are really like relatable and like you love all of them
Mhm.
so
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
Like in a lot of other shows, there's maybe like one or two characters that you really like, but some of the other ones kind of get on your nerves or something. But
yeah.
in Supernatural, I feel like they're all really good.
Yeah, no, you kind of just like kind of start just loving every single one, and just like you feel like you're part of their family the whole time.
Yeah. Okay, and then I think we both have the same answer to this question, but I feel like we have to answer it. So,
Okay,
do you prefer Sam or do you prefer Dean?
definitely Dean, definitely Dean. I love Sam too. I love Sam. Like, there's many times that I get mad at Dean. It's like, why are you yelling at Sam? He did nothing
Mhm.
wrong, kind of thing. But yeah, I'm definitely Team Dean. It's just like I love Dean. Like I said, his humor, his appetite, just everything. I laugh. He makes me like one of the few characters that make me laugh. Like genuinely, like I'm watching. No
Yeah.
matter how many times I watch, it makes me laugh like out loud.
Yeah.
And
It
that's
could
even comedies don't do that. You know, for a lot of like
yeah. It could be something I've seen him do like 800 times in a rewatch and I like it's still every single time I laugh like you said like it's just
yeah.
yeah, obviously my answer is also Dean. I also love Sam, but I feel like in the earlier seasons Sam got on my nerve a lot between like seasons like 2 and 6ish. Like he got on my nerves a lot. In the later seasons I started to love him more, but definitely I prefer Dean
Yeah,
too.
yeah, I love him because especially those episodes where they show how much really Dean sacrificed for him, and you
Yes.
know a lot of Sam's like happy memories were away from him, and like those are really heartbreaking and stuff. And the whole thing with Ruby is just like, man, it was hard. It was
Yeah.
hard to be on his side. But like you said, later seasons he really
Yeah.
started to do it more. I think.
I think in the earlier seasons, Sam doesn't give Dean enough credit,
Yeah.
and in the later seasons, he starts to appreciate everything that he's done for him a little more, and I think that's kind of what made me like him
Yeah,
more,
and
was
which is
just the
yeah, it's
change in
nice too
character.
because you know he's also growing up. He starts to show when 22 or whatever he
Yeah.
is, and like he's you know he's still a kid, and so I think he doesn't realize everything that Dean does until like later on he becomes more older and he starts to realize what and he starts to see for himself that Dean really sacrificed so much for him.
Yeah, I respect his character growth a lot for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely, and I love that. I love that.
Okay, and then moving on, so other than Dean, what would you say is, like, your favorite character or one of your favorite
So
characters?
obviously Castiel as well. Obviously Castiel as
Yes.
well. But Bobby, and it's so funny that we were just talking about like you know when you're maturing, you get older, you appreciate things more. But the older I get, the more I appreciate Bobby. Just because
Mhm.
you know when I was a kid, I watched it and it's just like oh he's just an older guy, you know, who helps them sometimes. But then you really get to see like okay no he was like their dad like their like
Yeah.
you did see he was their father figure. And so the older I get, the more I appreciate Bobby and love Bobby. I wish we got to see more of him.
And especially, like, in comparison to John, I feel like Bobby, like, shaped who they were as people so much more.
Yeah, and I feel like even Dean sometimes takes that for granted too. Um,
Yeah.
like he's always John, but like Bobby, like you know, played catch with him, like you know, like and like, just
Yeah.
taught him to like to hunt as well. But like, he also emphasized like you need to be kids too, man. Like you're a kid. Like,
Yeah, he was just great.
yeah, and he saw them as kid and as as his sons. Like he was always scared to have sons, but he saw them as his sons. And I know remember I'll never forget that episode in season 7, like you know, in his coma and he passed away. It's just like that. That was
No,
one of the episodes that like I was like, whoa, like heart like crying. Like yeah, that was a rough episode.
no, Bobby's death, like, I still think about it to this day because I couldn't tell if it was actually his death or not. I was like, "Is he gonna come back?" There's so many deaths in Supernatural that I don't mourn because I think that they're gonna come back. I'm like, "Oh, it's fine, like, he'll be back." Like, there's no way they're actually killing Bobby, right? And then he never came back, and I was like,
Yeah,
"Oh."
I guess he came back as a ghost, but but
Yeah.
it
But
wasn't the same. And then he came back. Well, his Apocalypse World Bobby came back, but then it just wasn't the same. I'm like,
yeah.
why couldn't you bring him back? Like, well, I'm sure Jim would have done it. I'm sure he would have liked to. But yeah, that's
Yeah, I just did not mourn his death at all. And I think I cried like a little bit and I was like, "Oh, this is sad." But I was like, "But it's like I don't actually need to be upset over it cuz he'll be back in a few episodes."
a very relatable Supernatural fan. It's like you don't cry,
Yeah.
after you know it's for sure. Like
Yeah.
so many deaths. Like
And then I think also for me, I love Castiel. So great. I feel like him and Dean are my top 2. I really love them. I really like Crowley. Like I feel like he's a good villain, but he's also a great character. I think he's so funny.
yeah,
And I love Charlie too. She's really
Charlie.
cool.
Yeah, that's I feel like that's one more character I would have loved to have seen way more of. Like
Yeah.
she would come back every once in a while. Like I would have loved a whole like Wizard of Oz spinoff just to see what she did. With
That
the
would have been really great.
that's what I
Yeah,
would.
I would have loved to have seen that because she
Yeah,
was a great character.
you never know. You never know nowadays. But I'll message Felicia Day like, hey, you don't know me, but you should totally push this.
Hey, so I have an idea.
But yeah, no, I love Charlie and yes, Cass. I think the same thing. Dean for me, it's Dean, Cass, Sam, Bobby. Like those are my that's my order.
That's a solid
And then
ranking.
Charlie, yeah, I think those are my top 5.
Okay, and then also speaking of favorites, what would you say is your favorite season of Supernatural?
That like we were saying, season 4, just because that's when Cass came in and the Angels, and it's just like it just
Yeah.
the show just took such a like solidified it and just like okay, like solidified the storyline, and then you start with like oh yeah, because you're like the vessels, it's just like oh man, this is really
Yeah.
cool. Like yeah, this that's when it really everything made sense. You could tell they were planning it. So Cass's entrance was like epic, and I love the character right away. So yeah, I think season 4 is my favorite.
Yeah, and I feel like also with season 4, like before that, it pretty much always been like the basic supernatural creatures and then you had demons.
Yeah,
But with season 4, they kind of opened it up for like so much more and it just like expanded the entire rest of the show and introduced like so many new things that we got to see. So I didn't have an answer written down for this because I was like, I don't know. I haven't rewatched it enough times because I'm still kind of like a newbie fan of the show. Like I'm a huge fan, but I've only been a fan for like
yeah.
a year and a half, 2 years. So I'm still learning. But I feel like honestly, 4 is a great answer because it does open up so much for the rest of the
Yeah.
series.
And then the other thing is like sometimes like for me, for especially for episodes, like one year, like you rewatch so many times that it's like, oh now this is my favorite episode, and then it just changes. Like
Hmm.
every year, my favorite episodes change. I have
Yeah.
like my top 5, but it's like I don't know if it's like I change as a person and now this is the episode, or I just watch it in different. I don't know what it is, but my favorite episode changes every year.
Yeah. Well, I feel like also every time I rewatch a show, like people will like joke to me, they'll be like, well, like, it's not like it makes any difference rewatching it, like go watch something else. But it's like every time I rewatch a show, I feel like I notice things that I didn't the first time around. Like I'll rewatch, like, for example, the originals. I've seen the originals probably 11 or 12 times. And every time I watch it, I come across some new fact or some new like line that I totally missed every other time somehow. So I feel like every time you rewatch it, your opinion should change a little bit, you know?
Yeah, no, and like you said, you catch things even if you watch it 10, 12 times. Like I feel like you always catch like even just like a little thing that you just never
Yeah.
caught before. So that's why I really love rewatching it all the time.
Yeah. Me too. So then kind of the same thing, but it's favorite season to rewatch, not just like favorite season in general.
Yeah, there's a lot. I really love that. I think it's season 10, season 9 of the Demon Dean. I really love that whole like
That's
the whole.
season I think
It was like
season
9,
9 he
right?
gets the mark of Cain and then season 10 he becomes
So I
Demon
think yeah,
Dean.
that whole Mark Kane plot, and then when he becomes Demon Dean. So like those 2 seasons, I think like I really
Yeah.
love rewatching them. But I don't know. I love the whole show, so I don't know. Like I love rewatching
Yeah.
the show. There's seasons that I will skip, or I will just not pay attention to that much.
Mhm.
Like season 7, I'll rewatch the episodes like really attentively. The one with Bobby, like in his coma, when Kevin comes in, because I love the character Kevin. Charlie, we also got Charlie there, so I'll rewatch anything with Charlie. But a
Mhm.
lot of the Leviathan stuff, I'm like, I'll
Yeah.
let it play in the background, but I
Yeah,
won't.
it's like I already know what happens. That's
Yeah, the
enough.
plot,
Like
and then they had to like not use the Impala for a while. I'm like,
that drives me
it's just like,
crazy
yeah,
every time I rewatch it. I'm like, "Okay, but where's baby?
yeah,
Because this is not acceptable."
yeah. So yeah, definitely, yeah.
Yeah. I would say also season 10 for sure. I feel like there's also a lot of really good episodes in season 10 that I love. So definitely season 10. I also love the Mark of Cain storyline. I think it's such a good one. And I feel like I always have to say season 1 of the show because it's just so nostalgic. Like of any show, season 1 is just always like has such good vibes. So
Yeah,
definitely season 1.
yeah.
And then I think I rewatch a lot of episodes from season 3 a lot too.
I
But
was gonna say there are episodes that I just go back and watch, like just fine, you know.
yeah. Moving on, we touched on this a little bit, but what would you say are like some of your top episodes? Like
Okay,
I
so
would say top 3, but I don't want to put like a box on it. So
yeah,
just all of your like
yeah.
favorites.
So I love to rewatch, randomly, even if I'm not currently re-binging the show.
Mhm.
I'll just feel like rewatching an episode, and I do love uh, Mystery Spot is and usually is my favorite, but it changes between French Mistake and Mystery Spot. But any
Yeah.
episode that has fourth wall breaking, like the whole French Mistake where they go into real life and
Yeah.
they're talking
I love the
Jensen and
way that they
Jared.
Yeah, I love the way that Supernatural does that. I feel like most shows you don't get to see that, but I feel like they touch on the fan base a lot as well. So like for me, like I love season 10 episode 5 fan fiction. Like that episode, I rewatch it all the time. It's so funny. I love that they like touch on things that the fans talk about that normally wouldn't have ever made it into the show.
Yeah.
And like even with Chuck having written the Supernatural books, like that episode just like was so funny to me. I loved that they kind of I don't know, it was something new that I'd never seen a show do before, so I really appreciated it.
I do love Supernatural. Really, like it really does, like you just said, like they do things that other shows won't do, and that's why it's one of those things when you explain or show a clip with no with no explanation, like what is this show?
What is going on?
The mystery spot, but yeah, French Mistake with like Jensen and Jared, and it was so funny seeing Jensen playing Dean playing Jensen. Just like
Yeah.
it was just so amazing, and they're really talented. It's like very underrated how talented they are.
Yeah, no. That's such a good episode. Like you said, like breaking the fourth wall. Like I respect it so much what they did with all of that.
Yeah,
And
and then
I also
changing channels as well. Like as well.
yes.
Yeah, it was like it was one of my favorites as well. It is still one of my favorites, but when they're like little picking on Grey's Anatomy a little bit there,
Yes.
and like and those like CSI kind of shows, like procedural cop shows, and it's just like everything about it. It was like so amazing
Yeah.
that episode.
And same kind of thing, like they like not necessarily fan base, but they touch on things in the real world. Like they touch on other TV shows and like I love I just rewatched this episode last night. I think it's called About a Boy and it's when like Dean gets transformed back into his like 14-year-old self.
Yes.
And I love that episode. It's so funny. They talk about One Direction, they talk about Taylor Swift, and I think they also mention Justin Bieber. And I love like all of the real world references. Like they're so funny.
Yep, and the actor nailed it. It's like I know people still talk about it, but the actor just like I know he watched a ton of videos of Jensen as Dean, and he really nailed. Like he was really like young, like teenage Dean. Like it was. I thought it.
Yeah. No, he did such a good job. It was literally like his mannerisms and stuff, like it was exactly like Dean. Like he did an amazing job.
Yeah, you can tell that he really studied. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm shocked we didn't see more of him like later on in other seasons. Or I think he did. He did. He was in one of the episodes later on in the later.
Yeah, I think he was in one more because
Yeah,
the actor always has to change because the kids that play the younger versions grow up by the time they use them again.
yeah. So I did love that they used him again because they changed him so often. But I did like that
Yeah.
he grew up, so they had to use him again.
And I agree with all of the ones that you've said so far. I also love one where Dean takes on like the qualities of a dog and they're like hunting.
Dog Dean Afternoon is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Yeah, I
So
actually
good.
recently made a video. Like, but no, it's so good. It's so good. It's one of my favorites too.
And I love Baby again. Like I also love ones where they use like cool filming styles. So I love Baby and I love the Ghostfacers episode, like the first one. I think it's in like season 2 or something. I don't know, but I love the way that they film it like it's actually like a little documentary thing. Like just so funny.
Yeah, and they're bleeping out their swear words and stuff. I thought it was so, yeah, no, and actually really one that also made me laugh a lot was the one where like they have basically Supernatural Con and
Yes.
then again
Yes, that one too.
they poke fun at us again. And like, I just like that. So maybe some people don't, but I like that they're poking fun at us and like everyone dressed up as Sam and Dean. And it's like that's me, like that's it.
Yeah.
Dressing up like this guy. So yeah, that episode I really.
Like I said, I love when they like do special things like that like I said other shows don't do. But moving on, so what would you say is like so the boys they dress up like in disguises a lot to like solve cases and stuff. What would you say is like your favorite disguise that they did?
Okay, so I love. Well, my favorite I would say for Dean is the gym coach Dean. I think that's just hilarious. Like it's hilarious.
Yes.
I love it. His short shorts. I love everything about it. He's like he pegs the kid. He's like, walk it off, walk it off. And like, so yeah, I think that's my favorite like funny one.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think of like a serious one. Probably maybe when Dean and Kaz had like the cowboy kind of
That's what I was gonna say.
cop. What's that called? Is it a cop with
Like
mountain?
they were trying to be like rangers
Rangers, yeah.
or
Sorry, I was thinking.
something like that.
Yeah, I thought that was great for it. But for Sam, I'm not sure for Sam. I do love the blooper where they're like fathers and they have like a sleeveless, like they're like sexy, sexy
Yeah.
like fathers. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. I love that one. I love the gym outfit for Dean. That one's so funny. I remember watching that for the first time and I was like, I don't know if I was like on my phone or something, but it switched and I looked up and I was like, pause.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's probably like my favorite funny one, that or the cowboy hats for Cass and Dean. And then I love I'm trying to think of what episode it is. It's the one where they're like there's the shapeshifter in the bank and when they
Yeah.
escape, they dress up as like SWAT agents
Oh
to like
man, yeah,
they
yeah.
disguise themselves as they get out. I thought that one was really cool. It's like on the more serious note, I thought that one was really cool. And it was a great exit scene.
I was gonna say that was a really great episode in general. Like that was a really
Yeah, it was.
they escape and they dressed up like the was it just the SWAT team? The
Yeah,
FBI?
I think it was SWAT or something like that.
And then they played Renegade at the end. It was just like everything about that episode is so good.
So good.
Yeah. I really like their Braveheart outfits, but I guess that's not a disguise. They were just having fun. Where they're LARPing with Charlie, and they're having
Yes.
yeah.
I love that episode too.
Yeah. So
That
anything
one
with
was great.
Charlie really, but yeah, and like Dean's all excited, and in the blooper he like falls. If you've seen that,
Yes.
yeah, that yeah, I really want to recreate that look with the long wig and like the Braveheart speech. And
Yeah, that's a good like comfort rewatch episode because it always makes me laugh.
yeah.
All right, and moving on. This is like our last like favorite, I guess, if you want to call them the favorites. So, who would you say your favorite villain was?
That's tough because I really liked a lot of them. Like
Yeah,
there's some that they're not very likable, and I don't know if Crowley's even a villain anymore because like he's like near the end, he's like anti-hero. So it's like if I had
I
to say
think he
Crowley,
still technically
yeah, I
counts.
mean he did a lot of crappy stuff, but so yeah, but yeah, yes, but Lucifer is actually just a really good villain too. Like and he's always just bad. So I
Yeah.
really like Lucifer, but Crowley if we're counting him as well, like Lucifer and Crowley are just like dead even. I don't know which one.
Quick interruption from Addi and editing. If you do not want any spoilers for season 15 of Supernatural, skip ahead to 31 minutes and 14 seconds. Definitely Crowley. Like I said, he's one of my favorite characters. So I guess that also kind of counts him as one of my favorite villains. But honestly, I feel like my favorite villain was Chuck. I loved the whole
Really?
concept of it. I feel like he was the perfect final like villain for the show. Like of everything they fought, he was like the highest you could get, the last like villain they could be. I don't know. I just like the concept of it a lot. So I feel like he's probably my favorite, but
I like
definitely
early on.
Crowley.
I'm like, especially when it got to like seasons whatever 9, 10. I'm like, how long is this show gonna go? Like what more can they do? So I'm like, I feel like
Hmm.
no matter what, this is gonna end in them taking gut out. Like that's just how it's gonna end.
Yeah.
Take gut out.
I was really sad because I think like it got spoiled for me on TikTok that Chuck was God. And so like when I got to the episode where it was revealed, like I had like subconsciously noticed it and then like they said it and I was like, wait, I already knew that. And I was so upset about it because I feel like it would have been such a good reveal to like not know what was gonna happen
I
when
was
he
I
like
was gonna
said
ask
it.
you like when did you figure out it was Chuck? I was gonna like or did you figure it out? Like I personally I think we were talking about fan fiction when he shows up at the end of fan fiction when he was supposed to be dead, because
Mm,
they brought in Kevin because like oh that means Chuck is dead because there's a new prophet, and I'm like when he showed up in fan fiction I'm like he's got to be God. Like
yeah.
I don't know why,
And
but
I feel like yeah, it kind of goes along the lines of like Gabriel being the trickster.
yep,
Like it's the same kind of concept. Like he shows up and he's just a prophet, just like Gabriel was just a trickster, but actually he's an archangel and actually it's God.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I feel like I could have put it together, but it did get spoiled for me. So that was sad.
Yeah, that's the bad thing with, yeah, I guess because you started recently, like a couple years ago. It's not that recent, but yeah, it's tough. People want to. I had the second episode. I don't know if we should say spoilers or not. Because yeah, for me, what was spoiled was when Cass died, like the second last episode, because I just didn't have time. Like, and it came out, and I was just on my phone. But I'm gonna watch the episode tonight, especially because we in Canada we have to use like a VPN and stuff, so it's just annoying. And I was for a second I went on my phone, and yeah, Castillo like dead. I'm like, come on,
No.
man! Like I was so mad. So then I just literally didn't use my phone for those 2 weeks in the
Yeah.
coming finale, just because I did not want anything more spoiled. But I was so mad. I was so mad.
Yeah, I do it to myself a lot. Like, I'll start a new show and I'll be like, "Oh my god, this is really good." And so I'll go on TikTok and I'll like search up like edits of the show or something, and I'll be
Oh,
watching them
no.
and I'm like, "Oh, this is such a good show. I'm so excited." And then something will come up and it'll be like it'll have a spoiler and I'm like, so I just started watching Pretty Little Liars and I have not watched a single TikTok about it. I will not let myself. I'm not going to let anything get spoiled, but I was not smart enough for that with Supernatural. So I didn't technically get Cass's death spoiled, but I'd seen like an edit on my For You page and it was the clip of him like saying his speech to Dean and like he was crying and like I watched it and I don't even think I had my audio on or anything, but I saw him crying and I like immediately knew. I was like, "Oh no,
Yeah,
that's not good."
and it's like
And so it wasn't like
you're
official
preparing
spoiler,
yourself
but
that someone's gonna die. But
yeah.
yeah,
Okay. And then next we have, do you prefer like the monster of the week or like the darker kind of vibes of the earlier seasons, or do you prefer the vibes of the later seasons, I guess?
that's tough because seasons 1 to 5 were like obviously that's what it was supposed to be, and it was
Mhm.
done like incredibly well. Like everything about it was just perfectly planned, and everything was great. But there's so many good episodes after the season, after season 5, later seasons. So that's a tough question. But I would say seasons 1 to 5, just because for
Yeah.
especially now that it's so like nostalgic to rewatch.
Yeah.
And like I said, like when we get to meet a lot of the new characters and like cast and stuff like that. So I think I love everything after season 5, but seasons 1 to 5 are like just real, just so good. They're so good.
Yeah. I'd probably agree. I love the later seasons, but just the the energy in the earlier seasons and it had like the filter on the video and like just how creepy it was, like the jump scares and stuff. Like I just love the vibes, I guess, of it. But I do love the later seasons too, like you said. So I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, and so those are all like the main things. Now we're going to move on and just quickly go through some questions that you guys asked on Instagram. And I say this every time I do a Q&A, but if you don't follow Not Your Average Fangirl on social media, it's notyouravagefangirl.pod everywhere. So go check it out and next time we do a Q&A, you can participate and put your question in. But let's get into it. So, first things first, we are just kind of talking about like season 5 and the earlier seasons versus the later seasons. Do you think that it should have ended with season 5 or do you agree that it should have kept going on
No,
all
I
the other 15?
as good as seasons 1 to 5. I'm so happy that it kept going because there were so many episodes, like so many storylines, like Amara, like Demon Dean, like just like the amount of letters that we would have missed out on so much.
Yeah.
So I'm so happy it kept going. I definitely,
Yeah.
definitely, no, I'm so happy. So I don't know what
Yeah,
I would
I
have done.
agree.
I would have not even gotten into it because I got into it later after seasons 5.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy to think about. I 100% agree. I think that like the later seasons, like you said, we get so many episodes and so many great storylines from the later seasons. And I feel like the majority of my favorite episodes are past season 5. Like I have a few favorites from the earlier seasons, but most of my like all time favorites are from the later seasons.
yeah,
So, okay. And then next, someone asked a quote that we love. What is one of your favorite
well,
quotes
there's
from
a
the show?
lot. I literally, like, I have 2 shirts that say pudding, so that's definitely one of my favorites. But in Mercedes, no, like Bobby's like family don't end with blood. I think that's I literally that one kind of I took to heart for my whole life.
Yeah.
With blood, lost my shoe. It's just like there's just too many to name, but yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's so many like good, thoughtful, and like deep quotes in Supernatural, and there's also so many just like funny, goofy ones, like "I lost my shoe." Like, there's just so many memorable ones. But another quick interruption from Addi and editing. Again, if you don't want any spoilers for season 15, skip ahead to 34 minutes and 45 seconds. I think like going on the more like thoughtful note, and speaking of Cass's goodbye again, I think that his like goodbye speech, like everything he said to Dean, like that entire scene was just so good. And as much as I hate that we lost him, I think that they closed off his character really well with everything they said.
Yeah. And Misha like nailed the monologue. It was like man,
For sure.
yeah, it was really good.
And then next we have we were kind of talking about like the monster of the week thing. So there's so many different supernatural creatures in Supernatural. I feel like in a lot of shows, like going back to Vampire Diaries, for example, they only have like the basics, the vampire, the witch, and the werewolf. But in Supernatural, they like expand so much past that. So what would you say is your favorite creature that they introduce?
Um, I love the angels. I really, really love the I would have loved to have been an angel. I love them. But like monstery werewolf, but only because my favorite has always been werewolves in any kind of show, any lore. Werewolves have always been my favorite. Even in the Twilight, I just like the werewolves. I love dogs, so maybe that's why I love wolves. So I would have loved to have been a werewolf. So I love the episode, and I can't think of the name right now, but where it's like the whole thing that they're watching like a video of like two roommates and then the one guy's girlfriend
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
turn into werewolves. And I love that episode because for one, I love the episodes and I love like the whole storyline shot on the camera kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that episode. But yeah, wolves for me. Wolves.
I feel like wolves is a good favorite to have because it's basically going to show up in any supernatural based show. Like they're always going to have the werewolf, you know? But I would say honestly, my favorite was just because this was so random and I love that they included it, but I have to go with fairies.
Fairies, yeah. Like, oh, there's another quote: "Fight the fairies, fight
Fight
those
the
fairies."
fairies.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that was a great episode too. It was just so funny.
that was
But
a good episode.
yeah. Typically my favorite's like a vampire, but in supernatural vampires are kind of like a bit creepier
Yeah,
than my typical vampire, so I
yeah.
would say the
Teeter.
fairies.
Yeah, they're like teeter lady.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're very aggressive.
yeah, yeah. For me, wolves.
One final interruption from Addi and editing. If, again, you do not want any spoilers for season 15 of the show, skip ahead to 40 minutes and 25 seconds. Going back to season 15, did you like the finale?
That's a question. So I loved a lot of things about it. Like I feel like it in a lot of ways it ended the way it needed to end.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know because it was like right during COVID, we got kind of like stolen out of a better finale where they were supposed to meet everyone in heaven,
Yeah.
Ellen and Joe, and like just everyone was supposed to be there. So obviously because of COVID, it just didn't come to pass, and we got Bobby at least. But yeah, it was. I didn't again spoilers, but
Spoiler warning.
I would have loved to have seen like Dean go out. I don't know, like like guns blazing, like he always said, and then he just kind of like
It was, yeah. I think that if they were going to take Dean away from us, it should have been the episode before with like the final battle with Chuck. Like that would have been
I
his guns
agree. I
blazing
agree.
moment.
Taking out God. Like I feel like
Yeah.
that not freaking freaking Rusty Nail.
Yeah, same way as like I said, I think that that was such a great like final villain, like top of the food chain. It would have been like the perfect final battle for Dean to fight. So
Yeah, I
it's
do
just
like
like for him to survive that.
yeah. At least he got to enjoy some time after that. So he got he's got his little dog, like Miracle, and he got like he got his pie, and he just had some time to at least like live life for a bit. And I whole
Yeah.
understand that they don't have the luck, they don't have the luck from Chuck anymore to protect them, kind of thing. So I understand, but I was still like, really, by some vampire from like seasons one or something. Like I don't know.
Yeah, like who
So
even was
weird.
that? Like
It felt rushed, and again, I think partly because of COVID, it was very rushed, and it was just unfortunate. Like I had some things ended like it needed to, like him driving baby at the very end, to carry on.
perfect.
That
Yeah.
was like a tear moment. But so like it's some good, some bad, and I know COVID really robbed us of a better finale for sure.
Yeah. I think that like you said, like it was just it had a lot of points that I liked, but it also was missing a lot of stuff. And with Dean, it was just like there's no way you guys just showed him defeating God and then he's just gonna die on a random hunt.
Yeah,
Like, I'm sorry?
yeah.
No. I
And
just can't accept that.
and again, I get it. I understand. But I know even Jensen had some issues with with that death, and I know it must have
Yeah.
been great. It was hard for us. I can't imagine for him. At least he, I remember him saying like they wanted him to die on his like lying down, and then he's like, no, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna die standing up. He fought for that at least to
Yeah.
be on his feet. So I appreciated that for him.
And I totally get also like him dying because that kind of was like the consistent thought throughout the shows that
Yeah,
he wouldn't make it through the end, but
and then
I
same
just
with
wish they would have done it a different way.
like Sam gets his little fairy tale, not fairy tale ending, but he gets normal life. Yeah, so that I loved. I loved, and I loved Sam naming his son Dean, and there's a lot of good, that comes out of it. And he reunites with Dean in heaven.
Yeah.
There's a lot good to it, but and I feel it does feel rushed because even Jared's old man makeup is not the best. Like the wig was kind of like
No, that part was so
you tell that it was
strange.
rushed. It was rushed, and it was probably out of their hands. But for a show like Supernatural for 15 years to kind of have to be rushed at the end kind of sucked.
Yeah. So I would say that our final thoughts are it was good in some ways, but it was also bad in some ways.
Yeah, yeah. But it's hard. It's hard to please everyone. So I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. But yeah.
Okay. And then so once you got back into it, how long do you think it took you? I feel like a lot of people ask like if it's worth watching just because it's such a long show. And just to sum it up for you guys, how long would you say it took you to finish the entire thing?
Well, I guess it's different because when I was watching it, it was every week.
Oh, that's
So,
true. I didn't think about
I
that.
had to wait, which was good and bad. It was good because I didn't like sit down and binge for weeks, and then it didn't. I was because I do a lot with shows, but when I rewatch it, it takes me like a couple weeks. I think just day
Yeah.
and night it's just playing. So I don't know, but the first time I did watch it, seasons 1 to 8, I think it took me like a week.
Yeah. I would say for me, I once I got like really into it, like I watched the first probably like 6 seasons like within, a few weeks. And then I like started to realize how much I loved it. And I'm like 15 seasons is a really long time, but I know I'm going to fly through it. And so I tried to like pace myself and I was like I would binge it for like a week and then I would just not barely I would barely watch it for a few weeks and then I would binge it really hard for a week and then I think I have like the record for dragging out season 15 the longest ever.
Which is fair.
Like
You just didn't want it to be over.
I didn't want it to be over, but I think it took me 4 months to watch season 15, like, all the way.
You have a lot more. You have way more willpower than me. I was like the
Yeah.
same. I was like, I remember it came out, and I'm like, when I watch it, it's over. So I'm not gonna watch it. And then like a few hours later, I'm just like, I watched it. So,
Yeah.
and I was like, yeah, but yeah. So for when I think I binged it seasons 1 to 8 in a week or less. I think it was just like it was day and night.
Yeah. I think, like, in general, if you're someone who's worried about it being too long, like, don't because you'll fall in love with it so much that you won't want it to be over, so you'll actually wish there was more than 15 seasons.
No, I will
So,
always recommend it to everyone that will like me talk to them. It's just like I
yeah.
always recommend like no, like you will love it. Like you will. It is long, but it's just like I don't know. It doesn't feel like a which but it is because like 23 or whatever episodes per season, hour long. Like you think it would be, but it's like it doesn't feel like it.
It's all, like all the storylines are necessary, like, there are some storylines I don't like as much as others, but they're all important in a way or, like, I feel like they're needed, Running pretty long on time, so we're gonna quickly go through these last few questions, but moving on, which character do you wish you could just give a hug if you got a chance to?
Well, I mean all of them, but
Yeah, honestly, all of them.
honestly, Dean every time he's got the little single man tear, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be like, come here, man, like but like, yeah, Sam as well. Like, I got to give Garth a real life hug, at a convention. That was nice. Um,
Yeah, I would say definitely Dean. I feel like he could just always use a hug. And then also Cass.
yeah.
I
Oh,
also feel
no,
like Cass would just give really good hugs.
that's a good answer. Yeah, he'd just be like this, like, what's going on?
Yeah, that's what I chose for my picture with Misha actually when I met him. I was like, "Can we just do like a big bear hug?" And he was like, "Yeah."
Yeah, I love that. Was he normal attire or dressed like Cass?
It was when the strike was still
Oh,
happening, so it was just regular attire. But I was gonna get the Cass picture and I was really sad that they couldn't because of the
nah, I
strike.
got the Cass photo. I got lucky.
I'm jealous.
Yeah,
Okay, moving on. Which I feel like every side character in Supernatural only lasts a few seasons. Like they never make it very far. So which side character do you wish would have stuck around for a little bit longer?
definitely Charlie. Definitely Charlie. Charlie and Garth. But Charlie, I would have, like I said, I would have loved the whole season with her. I would have loved a whole season of her just helping the boys out.
Yeah.
Yeah, just living with them, being like the little sister, like she is, just like little. Would have been love some brother sister kind of little fights,
Yeah.
and that I would have loved that. Yeah,
I definitely would also say Charlie. She was just such a great character. Okay, and then moving on, like two kind of iconic Dean moments are Demon Dean and then Michael as Dean. Which would you say you prefer?
It's Demon Dean for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. Like I would have,
Yeah, me too, 100%.
because he was still Dean, just like kind of like a dark version,
Yeah.
and, and then the other was just Michael in his vessel, right? But Demon Dean, I would have loved like again a whole season of Demon Dean. I feel
Yeah,
like,
I hate that it was only for a few episodes. I feel like it could have been such like a good, like longer running story.
yeah, especially because like Jensen really seemed to enjoy playing like this darker, Well, now he's
Yeah.
Soldier Boy, so but he but like the Demon Dean, I would have loved the whole season.
Okay, and then moving on, I feel like this is kind of a given for me because I've posted pictures of me crying while watching Supernatural on the internet. But did you cry when you watched the show?
Yeah, there was a bunch of times in the finale. Actually, I think I recorded myself watching the finale, and it was just like I was crying, but at the same time, like kind of I don't know what was happening. I'm like, what just happened? Like, is this what really just happened? Like,
Yeah.
I had to like the second time I watched it, I cried way more because I know what was coming, and I just had more chance to like be ready to process. So, but yeah, definitely like
Yeah, I cried so much watching it. And, if you're someone who's finished the show, I posted like a vlog of me like finishing it. Like, just I videoed my reactions to like, I think it was like a two-part thing because it ended up going so long. But my entire reactions to everything that happened in the finale are on TikTok if anyone wants to go watch it. But yeah, answer is yes. We
yeah,
definitely cried.
you will cry too. Yeah,
Yeah.
you,
So if you're gonna watch it, bring some tissues. Okay, and then second to last question. So I feel like when they introduce new characters on Supernatural, they always do a really good job and they're really like cool entrances.
okay.
Which would you say is your favorite?
Cass, 100%. Cass is, or
Yeah,
Death's.
mine too.
What doesn't get talked about enough? Like Death's entrance,
Yeah.
just like the music, the tone, the actor, just like killed it as Death, pun intended. He's just so good. And yeah, I was really mad when they took him out. Enjoyed that character.
Yeah.
He was so good at just neutral. Like you could tell that he was neutral, and his entrance and Cass's entrance, of course. But
Yeah, Cass's was so good. That entire first episode of season 4 was so good, but definitely his entrance. And I would say he's my favorite, but I also really liked Death's entrance, like you said. Like it was just a really cool like scene to watch, like
yeah, yeah,
in
just every
general.
music was just like dead on. Just so good.
Yeah, they just did a really good job with it. All right, and then I feel like you guys already know our answer to this question, but to finish everything off, to someone asked, as someone who's never watched the show before, would you recommend that I watch it? So, what would you say?
Yes, I mean, yeah, maybe we're biased, but definitely, it's a super great fandom to be a part of. Like I feel like every fandom's good, but I feel like we're very just like it's like we're a big fandom but a small one at the same time. It's weird to describe, but like people see my tattoo and like if they recognize it, it's like they run across the street and they're like, oh my god, I watched Supernatural too. Like
Yeah,
it's just like yeah, it's definitely an awesome fandom to be part of.
I would definitely say I recommend it as well. I am always trying to convince people to watch it, and sometimes I'll get DMs from people, and they'll be like, "I followed you because I love Vampire Diaries, and then you started posting about Supernatural, and I watched it, and now I'm obsessed with it, and it's my favorite show." And I'm like, "Thanks,
Yeah,
that makes me
I actually
happy."
love
But
hearing this. I started Supernatural because of you.
yeah,
I love hearing that because
it's
let me know.
such a good like little compliment to get, I feel like.
Yeah, no, and it's very nice to hear.
So if you haven't watched Supernatural, we might have just spoiled a lot for you, but you should still go watch it anyway. Okay, so that is pretty much all we have for you guys. I hope you enjoyed listening to us talk about Supernatural, and thank you, Charlie, for joining me on this episode.
Of course, thank you for having me. See you guys on social media.
Bye.
Bye, guys.